Hello, welcome to the Ukrainian Studies Organization at Indiana University. I'm Natalia Shlikhta, and thank you so much for attending our talk today. Our guests are Kateryna Dysa and Oleksandr Haidai. They represent the Ukrainian Institute, Kyiv. Today, we talk about the programs and projects that the Ukrainian Institute creates and supports. Let me introduce our guests. Kateryna Dysa. Hello, Kateryna. Is Associate Professor of Department of History, National University of Kyiv-Mohyla Academy. Kateryna Dysa earned her bachelor's and master's in history from the National University of Kyiv-Mohyla Academy. She defended her PhD in comparative history at the Central European University, Budapest, Hungary. She authored the monograph Ukrainian Witchcraft Trials, which was published in 2020. And her research interests include the history of travel and travel writing in the late 18th and 19th centuries. Oleksandr Haidai, hello Oleksandra, is academic program manager at the Ukrainian Institute. Oleksandr Haidai graduated from the National University of Kyiv-Mohyla Academy and was granted a fellowship at the Graduate Institute of International and Development Studies, Geneva. She defended her doctoral thesis at the Institute of History of Ukraine, the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine in 2016. Oleksandr Haidai specializes in memory studies and the contemporary history of Ukraine. As always, we will start with our lecture, and please submit your comments and questions via our Q&A option, which you can see at the bottom of the screen. All questions and comments will be addressed during our discussion or right after our discussion. So at this point, I would like to invite Kateryna and Oleksandra present the lecture. And thank you again, Kateryna and Oleksandra, for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting us. It's very pleased to introduce our course, online course at Indiana University at your center. As you told, I'm working as academic program manager at the Ukrainian Institute, and Ukrainian Institute is a public institution affiliated with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine. The mission of the Institute is to strengthen Ukraine's international standing through the means of cultural diplomacy. In other words, it's important for us to increase visibility and improve understanding of Ukraine among people of other cultures and promote Ukraine culture internationally. Ukraine Institute has already a number of projects that contribute to approaching this ambitious goal. Last year, we launched Lysia program that supports academic projects in educational and cultural institutions, institutions that registered outside Ukraine. In total, 8 projects were implemented in different countries of Europe. All information is available on our website if someone new is interested. At the Ukrainian Institute, we are trying to talk about Ukraine from various dimensions perspective, using different mediums and resources to approach different audiences. Online course became a very special project for us. Our program director, Irina Prokofieva, shared this idea of creating, developing online course about Ukraine for foreigners. In the process, we face a number of challenges due to the fact that as a public institution, we were the first one to launch such, to develop such a course. Although online education is very developed sphere in Ukraine, most of the online courses, especially in humanitarian, are available only in Ukrainian and designed for Ukrainians, placed on Ukrainian educational platforms. Our goal was to make a course, first of all, for foreigners that has very little, if any, knowledge about Ukraine. Also, as you may know, this sphere of online education is very compatible now. There are a lot of online educational projects available that places demand on quality of the visual content, a part of professional narration of the events. So for us, it was very important to make a course visually attractive and modern. I want to thank our partner in this project, Ukrainian online education studio EdEra. It has a huge experience in developing online projects. I also would thanks to our team of lecturers. The course was developed in collaboration with the Ukrainian researchers, academics from the National University of Kyiv-Mohyla Academy. I would name them. There are 5 scholars: Vadym Aristov, Tetiana Grygorieva, Kateryna Dysa, Natalia Shlikhta, and Maksym Yakovlev. The course aims to provide basic knowledge of Ukrainian history and culture, as well as reveal Ukraine's role in European and not only European history. At the moment, more than 1,700 students register for the course. And I must say that that we are very pleased that students not only from Europe or North America reaching this course, but also from different countries from around the globe. To reach this very broad audience, it's very difficult, although because it's very diverse. But online products are very good instruments for it. Not only because they are limited, not because we're now very limited in possibility to have in-person events, but because online products allow person learn about many topics, including about Ukraine, in the comfort of his study at home when she or he has time. So it's one of the reasons why online education became so popular. Many of the students have already completed a course. Some of them left feedbacks. For us, these feedbacks are very important, and I would like to cite just a few of them. One girl wrote short videos, perfectly explained, perfect to learn more about Ukrainian history after work. Or the other one, it's a good course, but it's too short and basic, a good start, but I want more in-depth courses on the history of Ukraine. Or the other one, a fantastic course on the history of Ukraine, covering religious, military, diplomatic, political, and revolutionary influences on the geography, language, and culture. And I must know that even if a person voiced a demand for a more detailed story, it's really a positive feedback, because it signifies that the person wants to know more about Ukraine, and the content of the course was interesting for him or her, and we can work with that and develop more content. Online course has shown its advantage in attracting wide audience, and also it exposes that there is a lack of such formats in the field of Ukrainian studies. The format that is partly explain why the course became so popular. There is a demand for resources that tell broad audience about Ukraine and its heritage in more or less simple way. There are a lot of examples when in broad public sphere, heritage of Ukraine does not address properly, or even misrepresenting due to the lack of knowledge and influence of Russian disinformation. I would mention just one very recent example. I don't know if you heard, but the World Economic Forum, in a publication in honor of March 8, published a list of 6 women who changed world history. Can you imagine just 6 names, and one of them was Princess Olga? The problem is that in the publication, she was named the Russian ruler and foundress of modern Russia. Our former president wrote a post on Facebook page with a demand to correct information about her. The response of the organization was rather ambiguous. The forum team decided to exclude the Princess Olga from the list altogether. And now you will find just 5 names on the website page, and a note that a previous version of this article included a mention of Saint Olga, and it was removed due to conflicting historical accounts. For Ukrainian Institute, it's important to present and promote Ukrainian vision of the past event, spread Ukrainian narratives abroad, and introduce Ukrainian names internationally. We know that knowledge about Ukraine is very limited, and often this knowledge is subject to certain stereotypes. That's why to be proactive in this sphere is very important. Speaking about our future plans, I would like to mention that we are working on a new language version of the course. Thanks to the help and support of the organization of Family Aid Ukraine, we managed to have a Norwegian language translation of the course, and now we are working on some technical issues to properly present and develop this course in new language version. We hope that others like organization and people who are interested in such projects will come forward, and we can create more other language version of the course. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Oleksandra.
Maybe it makes sense to show the web page of the course for the viewers. I can try to do it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Kateryna.
So you can see that the course is on a platform called Udemy, and the course is called Ukraine, History, Culture, and Identities. I will now speak about making of this course from the perspective of lecturers. I won't take a lot of time, but well, last year the Ukrainian Institute approached us and with a request to prepare a course. They approached me and my colleagues from the history department and the Department of International Relationships of the National University of Kyiv-Mohyla Academy, asking us to develop a course, a basic course on history, culture, and identities of Ukraine. On the initial stage, we met all together, the whole team, Oleksandra, my colleagues, and the team of EdEra. We agreed on some basic points which we wanted which we didn't want to have in our course and which we wanted to have in our course. As Oleksandra said, it was a course designed for foreigners, for people from other countries who know nothing or very little about Ukraine, and well, what we didn't want at all, we didn't want to turn it into a story of never-ending sufferings, um, oppression and tragedy. We wanted to move away from this kind of narrative and this kind of discourse, and we wanted to break down these stereotypes which people might have about Ukraine as this victim of history, victim of its neighbors. So we agreed that we won't have it in our course. We also didn't want this course to be focused on political history. You know, with this list of famous people and basic political events, but rather it was to be a mixture of well, social, cultural, religious, maybe a bit of economic history of Ukraine. What we also didn't want, we didn't want it to be a course on Ukrainians in Ukraine. So we wanted to show the diversity and to include people who populated Ukraine in various times. So we had Poles and Jews and Crimean Tatars, etc. Well, Alexandra already mentioned it, that we also didn't want to have Ukraine presented as isolated from European historical developments, but rather make it a part of a larger story, broader story, and broader European context. So we were trying to introduce some basic basic facts of what was going on in the world, in Ukraine, and how it reflected in in Ukraine at that time. So we agreed on all these issues, and it was very cool that Ukrainian Institute gave us freedom to do with this course, with the content of this course, whatever we wanted. They trusted us, and I'm very thankful for this. We were given it was decided that the course will consist of 5 basic modules. I will open it now. So you can see that there are 5 modules, and they were like arranged chronologically, but the first module was a bit out of tune because it was decided that it would be better to start with contemporary history and present current situation in Ukraine. And our colleague from the International Relations Department, Maksym Yakovlev, who is a very good expert and who is amazing presenter and speaker. He was preparing that part of that module of the course. And after this, presenting the current situation, we turned to history, and we moved back on time to the Middle Ages, to Rus, and Vadym Aristov, who is a talented and promising scholar of Galician Rus, and in particular Galician Chronicle. He was preparing that part of the course. And then came early modern times with its religious diversity, and important part about presenting the Cossacks and relationship with the neighboring countries, and Tetiana Grygorieva, who is one of the best scholars in history of early modern diplomatic history. She prepared this early modern module. Fourth module about Ukraine in the 19th century was my responsibility. And finally, my colleague Natalia Shlikhta, who is really one of the best experts in and researchers of the Soviet times, Soviet Ukraine. She prepared this module on the 20th century. So you can see that actually we all were, we knew what we were doing, and we had a bit opportunity to insert something from our research because these topics and these periods were close to us, and we were not limited in what we could include. We had these 5 modules and more or less 10 lectures covering over 1,000 years. And we had this freedom to include whatever we considered interesting and insightful for the audience. The real challenge for us was to make all this material fit into just 5 minutes. And this was real challenge. And it was the most difficult part, well, at least for me, but I'm sure for my colleagues as well, to decide what to choose, what to take, and what to leave out. And for me, it was really very difficult because I had this amazingly complex and diverse history of the 19th century. And even though I had, because some of my colleagues had just 2 lectures and I had 3, but still it was too little to tell everything you want to share with the audience about the period you feel for. And also, as you know, we have all those amazing stars of Ukrainian national movements in the 19th century, and you also have to choose from these amazing figures. So I ended up with just 2 of them, Kotlяревsky and Shevchenko, because you can't leave out these people speaking about Ukraine of the 19th century and presenting them as key figures in early national awakening. I also decided to focus on ethnic and regional diversity of Ukraine of that period, I decided to end up my part of lectures with a story of Ukrainian immigration and the politicization of national agenda at the end of the century. But of course, it meant that me and my colleagues, we had to sacrifice other topics which were also dear to our hearts, and leave out other people and other topics unmentioned for the course. Because of these very strict time limits, we wanted to end up with the whole course taking around 1 hour. I think that it's a little bit longer, but not much longer than 1 hour, because it was the also common decision, because people from EdEra they recommended us to make it really short to keep people focused and interested, and not to lose interest in what we were speaking. That's why we had, well, and it was introductory course, of course. Since I mentioned people from EdEra, and Oleksandr already said that they had this long experience of preparing such popular courses for broader audience of people, so they knew that what they were doing, and they recommended us to well, they prepared the whole illustrative part of the course, and they helped us with shooting, and they made amazing animated parts to accompany our lectures, and thanks to their work, this course, our lectures became very dynamic and very lively, and I think they look nice. You don't see this, you know, talking heads all along, but you can see other things, and they're moving, and they show, you know, illustrative material to what we are talking. So I think that they really made a great job. I think that we achieved our goal, and well, from what Alexandra was telling about the feedback of the people who attended the course, you can see that people got some initial and basic knowledge of about Ukraine. And we also wanted to trigger interest and to incite people to learn more about Ukraine. And if this goal was achieved, I think that the course accomplished its mission. Well, thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kateryna and Alexandra. And I think we can start our discussion at this point. Please submit your comments or your questions. And while we're waiting for our comments, I would really like to go back to that story about Princess Olga. I should admit I didn't hear about that story, and it sounds well, thought-provoking, to put it mildly. But I wouldn't say that that instance is quite unique. I mean, we deal with those examples of just excluding some Ukrainian narrative all the time. And at this point, I'm thinking about one of the publications, which was actually published by one of the quite prestigious publishing houses. And in the author's note, in their biography note, it was mentioned that they were born in Crimea, and then in parentheses they put now Russia. So I'm wondering, how would you suggest that we deal with these cases, with these instances? Because I'm wondering, even if that was a preference which was made by the author, what's the responsibility of the publishing house to actually support in this move, in this way, the annexation and the occupation?
Okay, I will try to answer because it's hard. It's always a question to the organization, to their policy. And as you say in international law, there is no sanction, but if you see some injustice or voice your response, voice your opinion, because in this sphere, if you voice it, it matters. It will help change the situation because it will add something to the narrative. And we always deal in, it's not also that people may just don't know or just don't have this detailed research about the situation, so it can be on purpose or it can be like mistakes. So in this case, we have always fight for like improving the situation and to make sure that our position is heard. We have quite a lot of good examples, like success stories. You know, this campaign for Kyiv, not Kyiv, and it was really like a few years, like all the department now, like our there are a lot of issues from common heritage in different disciplines, like it's culinary or like cultural figures that we still have to introduce them as Ukrainians or and to. But it also includes to present Ukrainian heritage in more nuanced, diverse ways. Not just say that they are Ukrainian, but also tell that Ukraine culture is more complex and it's more diverse than you would expect.
Thank you, Alexandra. Yes, that campaign about Kyiv and Kyiv was quite significant. And prior to that campaign, we had Ukraine and the Ukraine, but sometimes we're still struggling with with this case as well. Kateryna, would you like to add something to this?
Well, Alexandra said most of what can be said about it. Well, we have to make ourselves visible, and we have to react to such situations and not to just swallow them. And now it's easy with all those social media and people reading and hearing all these voices. So yeah, I think it's on the one hand, it's easier to make our position, more visible, but on the other hand, it's also there is a lot of space for false positions as well. So it's but we have to be prepared, to react.
Thank you, Kateryna. We've got some questions. This question is from Hiraki Kuromiya. How interesting. I haven't registered, but I might. I'm just curious to know how you have presented Ukrainian history. Thank you and good luck. Oleksandr, Kateryna would like to.
Yeah, yes, thank you. That is also our part of our audience. People who work, scholars who work in Ukrainian studies. It's always interesting how to present narratives about the whole history of Ukraine. And I hope that these people also will include in the discussion, and we're always open to the feedbacks. Also if it's critics, so because you see that there are not there is not a lot of resources or courses, and when we started developing this course, the content, we don't really have a lot of materials or some scheme or some plan how to do it. There are in the Western world, the most famous book is The Gate of Europe, Serhiya Plukhia, and it's the success of this book and success of this course present that not so much have been done. That's why when you are doing this in the first time, you always face a lot of challenges. That's why I think the team of this course lectures were brave enough to take this responsibility, because it's really a responsibility to choose something, because you cannot tell people the whole story to present everything, because people will be like, the person will be bored and will not listen you to the end, and you really want them to know very special, very particular message ideas that you can translate, and to know like a few basic very important things about Ukraine, so person will have this this experience and will understand, not even know, but understand Ukraine better after listening to these lectures. So like have some experience in that. Thank you.
Well, it was not much the question to answer, but I think that it is very flattering that Professor Kazymyr might register for our course. So I'm sure that there'll be not much new for him, but well, thank you for this interest. We don't hear you.
Thank you. Thank you. And we have a question from Svetlana Melnik. Thank you. Could you please tell us a bit more about other initiatives of the Ukrainian Institute?
We have a lot of initiatives and a lot of plans, and I can say only from my small like sector, and now like we are really hoping that this year we will be like, I'm hoping that we will be able to launch the second call, the Synchroniski program, because last year we supported 8 projects, and I hope that this year we will also, but not only our decision, because and also developing the course. I really believe that this initiative should be like, we interested in the project that can live longer than like just a few months. Also, I can share this culinary project that I also involved as a manager. We with the help of Kultura, created this amazing book about Ukrainian cuisine. It's also a part, like a story about Ukraine culture, history, and so on. And it's very beautiful. It's available online, so you can download it in English or in Ukrainian, and like cooking, enjoying it. I now know that there are like we receiving feedbacks, and yes, this is quite a big project, because the project is not only about doing something, but also like after the project is done, to promote it, present it, and to spread this projects internationally. We have like a lot of, and it's also, I would like in the Synchroniski program, if you go to website, you will see like different kind of, but because we have this experience of pandemia this year and last year, we cannot support in-person events that are usually in the past were like supported. So it's more many publishing projects or projects that involve like digitalization of humanitarian science. So and I think every week on the website of Ukrainian Institute there is some news about our projects. So just follow our website and Facebook page, and each time you would be surprised.
Thank you, Alexandra. Kateryna.
Well, I'm not part of the Ukrainian Institute, so Alexandra knows better, and I would also recommend you to sign for for Ukrainian Institute page on Facebook, because it's they're really very active, and they're visible. And the last project they launched was on the for the International Women's Day, and well, you could learn a lot about, well, Ukrainian women in various spheres, and the way they are presenting it. It's also very, very good, I think, and attractive. And I think that well, we really missed the Ukrainian Institute like 30 years ago, when Ukraine became independent, because, well, it's an instrument to be present on this public space abroad, and to make people well, learn about us. Well, but better late than never. So.
That's very true. That would be wonderful to have this institute 30 years ago. We have one more comment from Hiraki Kuromiya. 1,700 are a lot of people. Very impressive. How do you propagate your course? May we help you? I think the model of the Ukrainian Institute might be the British Council. I hope it will thrive. What's the relationship between the Ukrainian Institute and the Institute of the National Memory?
Okay, I will start from the bottom. Ukraine Institute is the public institution affiliated with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, while Institute of National Remembrance is a public institution affiliated with the Ministry of Culture. And it's if our Ukrainian institutes mostly deals with the sphere of foreign audiences, promoting Ukraine internationally. So most of our project designed to be relevant for foreign audience and to improve Ukraine image of Ukraine beyond borders. While Institute of National Remembrance is a very specific institution with its own goals, and they now, as I can remember, they are now more focused on educational projects within Ministry of Culture. They coordinate some activities, but mostly within Ukraine. So it's just a matter where we work, and also the goals, like national remembers, they have particular goals about memory and Ukrainians. Also, about how you can, yes, the model was British Council, but I would say it's not, we should not have British Council or French Institute or Goethe Institute as a model, because every country is different. And each of these institutions were created in the context, in some particular historical context in particular countries. So they reflect the culture of this country and the international relations. So Ukraine Institute should reflect Ukrainian situation, and Ukraine situation is quite unique because we have our political goals, our situation, our preferences. So I would not have there is no one answer to how the cultural institution should look like. There are a few very, very important, very big institutions that we all know, but they are also part of the country they presenting. And how you can help spread the word, tell about the course, tell about about your students, or people that wanted to know something about Ukraine, but don't want to read books, and yes, we are really relying on the people who are path in information about such events, because we're working with the Ukrainian embassies in different countries. But the best advertising it's people advice. If someone advises you something, you will and you trust this person, you will try it. So I believe in this from person to person diplomacy.
And we've got a follow-up comment from Hiraki Kuromiya. Thank you. In that case, I hope the Ukrainian Institute will expand abroad and set up offices in many other countries. Kateryna, would you like to add something to these questions, maybe about the connection between the Ukrainian Institute and the Institute of National Memory?
Well, there is nothing to add. Alexander explained it, and since I don't have any, I'm not affiliated to any of these institutions, I would also trust what Alexander said.
I have a follow-up comment. During your presentation, you also mentioned that you would like to somehow change the perception of Ukrainian culture and Ukrainian history from suffering to something more positive. And in this connection, I'm thinking about the local understanding of Ukraine and Ukrainian history. In many cases, there is a lot of emphasis on suffering by Ukrainians. So, but as you pointed out, your target audience is in the first place foreigners, or those people who know little or nothing at all about Ukraine. But it also looks like it's some sort of a collaboration, right, between those who know about Ukraine something or and those who don't know anything. And Ukrainians are also part of this project. So how do you navigate between these two different perceptions? How can we also somehow promote a more positive view of Ukrainian literature specifically, or Ukrainian culture locally, not only globally?
Katya, do you want to answer the question?
I will, at least partly. Yes, we have this a very long-standing tradition which lives on in school books on Ukrainian history. When Ukraine is, presented as a victim of historical process, of victim of territory, in between, this savage neighbors, and it is it is very hard to fight it after people learn this model of presenting Ukraine for 5 years at school. And at one of the previous presentations of this course, which I heard, the director of EdEra said that he sometimes recommend this course to his friends from Ukraine who can understand Ukrainian English, sorry, and they say that they learn from it more than they learned from the school course on history of Ukraine. Of course, we cannot throw away and leave out all the tragic events from Ukrainian history. We cannot, just leave out and silence Holodomor or Holocaust or the Second World War, collectivization, whatever was going on. Imperial period, but we should not, focus just on these traumas. We have to present, you know, various aspects of life, because, well, people actually, obviously they didn't suffer their whole life. It was normal life, and there was some normality in their life, and the part about culture, as you said, is and literature is, and well, with literature, it's more problematic, because if we look at the course of Ukrainian literature taught in Ukrainian schools, it's also collection of poor peasants who are suffering, who have nothing positive in their lives. So it's also the question of selection, what we choose and what we present. But yes, this this is the way to go away from this traumatic history and traumatic literature, to just to think over and to select what can be positive, and to promote at least at this point, when there is no broad knowledge about Ukrainian history and about Ukrainian literature, to promote this positive image of history and literature and culture abroad.
Thank you, Kateryna. Oleksandr?
Yes, I think it's very huge question, because not only like for the course for history, but for all other spheres, like what should we do, that should we focus on what topics, like what projects and so on, because it reflects how you would like to present a country. And on the one hand, yes, we should like fight and should say about what happened to Ukraine during like 20th century and so on. But also we should keep in mind that people, especially like especially if you talk speaking about foreign audiences, they are not they should be introduced also with a positive image of the country, because they they have no knowledge and they will judge about the country. And for the first like introduction, you cannot you don't want to say that about all the problems about Ukraine and so on. And it's also very important like issue of balance about like talking about everything, because there were different times and people were still living in different times, even if the most terrible one, and they still have life, and they continue to be happy or not, but we cannot like say that it's just was dark times, because people were still there, and we should remember about this personal experience. And about in Ukraine situation, it's more diverse, because in Ukrainians has a much more resources to explore Ukraine. And now you see a lot of initiatives helping to the thanks to Ukrainian Cultural Foundation that supports a lot of projects within Ukraine, and many of them very positive, cultural and educational. So yes, in Ukraine you see this process, but also there should always, it's always very good to have a balance.
Thank you, Alexandra. Yes, it's very good to have a balance. Right, we don't have to silence some traumatic pages in the history of Ukraine, but there is a way to talk about these traumas, if you agree with that. And traumas can be processed somehow, and they should be processed. And maybe this emphasis on processing traumas can also somehow contribute to moving forward, right? And shifting emphasis and shifting some points that we would like to highlight. I have a lot of questions, but I think that we can somehow move towards the final question at this point. And like you said, that the project was and probably still is very challenging in terms of what you would like to include, because there are so many narratives that worth paying attention to. On the other hand, at least from what I heard and from what I saw, one of the challenges is that somehow the narrative which your project suggests will somehow confront other narratives, especially those which are supported by Russophone literature, let's put it this way, or Russian literature. Somehow this narrative has to stand out. So my question is, what is your favorite topic for this project, and what is your most challenging topic for this project? Taking into consideration all kinds of complexities that contributed to your choice.
I would say it's like one topic that I like in this course. It's about the period of 60s, because like I know a lot, like I know that abroad there are a lot of knowledge about dissidents, Soviet dissidents, and also dissidents from Poland, Czechoslovakia. They are very famous, and I read a book, Tony Judd, Post-War Europe, and when I was reading this book, I was surprised that not like one Ukrainian was mentioned, and for me it was like it is pity, and it's like because there was no English translation of like books about the research, but I like that in this course we have this piece telling about post-war Ukraine. It's period 60s, 70s, and it's a lot of names, important names from Ukrainian dissident movement. There are songs, films, books, and it's very nicely done. I very like thanks Natalia Shlikhta, because it's really presents the richness of this movement, but also the challenges. So I like it. Like now, but I think every piece, like every video, has its own good side, pro and cons, because it's always like it's. Every topic is very interesting if you know how to present it. So that's why we are like storytellers, but maybe because I have this connection with dissidents, from my previous experience, that I thought that this topic should be more discussed in abroad.
Thank you, Oleksandr. I like how you put it. We are storytellers. And Kateryna?
Well, I'm biased because, well, I know my part the best, and I can I can tell a story from the moment from the shooting, when we were making this project with the EdEra team, and the girls, well, it was all female team shooting it, and helping us with editing materials, with English editing, and so on. While we were shooting all these three lectures about Ukrainian national movement, from this cultural awakening till was politicization with this political parties and well, this first attempts to take part in elections, and the girls who were present, and they were also hearing these materials, and they got engaged and said, well, it's so similar to what we have now, you know. And so it really sometimes resonates, and I hope that it will also resonate for a foreign audience, maybe in different way, but well, it was not about my favorite piece, but well, it's difficult to judge because, well, I value input of my colleagues, and they are all very good, very professional. So it's hard to say which one is my favorite.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Kateryna. Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you for your wonderful, wonderful, absolutely fantastic project. And I wish you good luck. And I hope to hear more about your current and your future projects as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting us, and good luck.
Thank you. Today we had a conversation with Kateryna Dysa and Oleksandr Dovzhenko, who introduced us to the Ukrainian Institute projects. Thank you for attending our lecture today. Information about our upcoming events will be posted on the UkrSO listserv and our Facebook page, Ukrainian Studies Organization at Indiana University. You can view previous lectures and talks on our YouTube channel, and for future events that we will post, please subscribe to our channel. Again, thank you so much for attending our lecture today.